Ladies and gentlemen, I am Lady Lilith, and welcome to Eerie Embers. Missing Mary Flanagan. Mary Flanagan was a diligent 16-year-old girl, balancing multiple responsibilities with grace. She worked at the Tate and Lyle sugar refinery and occasionally helped out at an optician's office. Alongside her jobs, she attended Holbrook Road Secondary School and volunteered for the Blind Association. She was born on June the 9th, 1943, to Irish Catholic parents. Mary lived in West Ham, London, with her family, including her parents, sisters, and brother. Known for her brightness, confidence, and friendly demeanour, Mary stood 5'2", 157 centimetres tall, and had a medium build, wavy brown hair, and hazel eyes. On New Year's Eve 1959, Mary Flanagan disappeared, leaving behind a void in her family and community. Despite the passing decades, her disappearance remains a mystery, with her family and those who knew her continuing to seek answers. Mary Flanagan was due to attend the staff New Year's party at the Tate and Lyle sugar refinery where she worked. On December the 31st, 1959, at about 1 p.m, she was dressed in a checkered skirt, a red knitted coat and heels. With a basket slung over her arm, she gave her family one final wave and headed to West Ham tube station to travel to the party. This was the last time her family saw her, as Mary vanished that day, leaving her loved ones with unanswered questions and a deep sense of loss. The next day, Mary's parents reported her missing to the police after she failed to return home from the party. At this point, it was discovered that Mary hadn't attended work for 2 weeks. Even as recently as 2013, relatives still didn't know what she had been doing during that period. The investigation into her disappearance relied heavily on traditional police work, as it was January the 1st, 1960, and DNA analysis and other modern forensic techniques were not available. Searches were conducted in the local area, and there was some coverage in local newspapers, but these efforts yielded little information. Mary Flanagan's case remains a mystery, with her family and investigators still seeking answers. Mary's disappearance remains the UK's longest-running missing persons case, leaving behind bizarre clues and endless heartache for her family. Despite new leads and technological advances, the case is still shrouded in mystery. One lead that quickly came to light was Mary's boyfriend, an Irish man in his 20s who worked in the Merchant Navy. Mary's father had introduced the two, and they had been seeing each other for some time before her disappearance. Unfortunately, he couldn't be found, and even his name was shrouded in mystery. It was thought to be Tom McGintley, but no one of that name could be found working for the Merchant Navy. It was considered that his surname could have been something similar, but different, like McEntry or McGuinness. As of 2013, Tom McGintley has still not been tracked down for questioning, leaving a significant gap in the investigation. The nature of Tom's relationship with Mary was ambiguous. Some believed he was her fiancé, though there was no ring to confirm this. Others referred to him as her boyfriend, while some speculated that Mary was on the verge of breaking up with him. Their last known interaction was marked by a bitter argument. Tom had told Mary he lived with a landlady, but it was discovered that he actually lived with his mother. This lie led to a heated argument, with Mary ending up in tears and raised voices being heard between Tom, Mary, and her father. On the morning of December the 31st, 1959, Mary slept in late, which was unusual for her, suggesting that she may have been upset by the argument the previous day. In the immediate aftermath of Mary Flanagan's disappearance, no substantial clues were found. However, long-term measures were implemented to monitor any potential activity. Authorities placed a trace on her national insurance number, the UK equivalent of a social security number in the USA, but it has never been used by anyone working within the UK since her disappearance. The Salvation Army was also contacted to check if she had sought their assistance, but this yielded no new information. Over time, due to lack of evidence and leads, her case became inactive. Brenda Harris, Mary's sister, has never given up hope of finding her. Now living with her family in Peterborough, Brenda remains convinced that Mary was engaged and believes she may have eloped with Tom, despite never seeing an engagement ring. Reflecting on the last time she saw her sister, Brenda, who was only 8 years old when Mary disappeared, recalls, "She wished us all a happy new year, as she kissed my sister, brother and I goodbye, because she knew we would be in bed when she got home later. My mother and I watched her walk to the West Ham station, and she turned around and waved goodbye to us. That was the last time I saw Mary. She never came home." Brenda, along with her siblings Kevin and Eileen, have tirelessly searched for Mary over the years. Despite a police investigation at the time, which yielded no results, the family has pursued every possible avenue themselves, from contacting the Salvation Army to exploring the family history centres. Yet they have never discovered what happened to Mary. Brenda's enduring dedication to finding her sister underscores the family commitment to resolving this decades-old mystery. In 2013, Brenda Harris's DNA was entered into the UK databases for comparison against unidentified remains. As there was no available DNA from Mary, this was a step taken in hopes of resolving the long-standing mystery of Mary's disappearance. Unfortunately, as of now, there has been no potential matches. Since that time, there has been no updates on Mary's case. If she is still alive today, she would be 80 years old, leaving her family still searching for answers and holding on to hope that one day they might learn what happened to her. Mary's family have speculated that she may have been pregnant at the time of her disappearance, which could explain her decision to elope with her boyfriend Tom McGintley. This theory suggests that she sought to escape the potential shame or judgment, especially given the societal norms of the time. Despite their suspicions, there is no concrete evidence to support this claim, and the mystery surrounding her disappearance remains unresolved. The uncertainty surrounding Tom McGintley adds another layer of complexity to Mary's disappearance. Given that he hasn't been traced, by his identity remains unconfirmed. It raises troubling questions. The possibility of foul play, including a potential murder or suicide, can't be dismissed. If Tom was involved in Mary's disappearance, he might have chosen to live under a different identity to evade scrutiny. The police highlighted the significance of identifying him in their 2013 appeal, emphasising that understanding his role could be crucial in solving the mystery of what happened to Mary. Without more information, the family's search for closure continues amidst these unanswered questions. Absolutely, the possibilities surrounding Mary's disappearance are vast and varied. While the context of her life, including her argument with Tom and her unexplained absence from work, points to a more personal situation, other scenarios cannot be ruled out. Suicide is a heartbreaking possibility, particularly given her emotional state that day. Alternatively, she could have been the victim of a kidnapping or an unrelated crime. Although these scenarios seem less probable without prior indicators, the enduring mystery of her case, over 6 decades later, underscores the complexities of human behaviour and the various paths a life can take. Each theory brings its own weight, but without any concrete evidence, the true nature of what happened to Mary remains elusive. The family's ongoing search for answers highlights the profound impact of her disappearance. If you have any information about Mary or her whereabouts, please call Newham Police's Missing Persons Unit on 020 821 75728 or call the charity Missing People anonymously on 116 000. The missing case of Lord Lucan. Half a century ago, London was the scene of a chilling murder that still haunts the city to this day. The crime was savage, drenched in blood, and shrouded in the shadows of a grievous mistake. The victim, the children's nanny, and the accused, the elusive 7th Earl of Lucan, a 39-year-old professional gambler with a sinister reputation. The night of terror saw not only the brutal slaying, but also the vicious attack on his wife. In the aftermath, the Earl vanished into the murky depths of the unknown, his disappearance whispered to be orchestrated by his influential and shadowy associates. Fueled by the relentless press coverage and wild speculation, the case swiftly morphed into a modern-day morality tale. The nation became utterly obsessed, unable to tear itself away from the unfolding drama. On the evening of November the 7th, 1974, the life of 29-year-old Sandra Rivet, the newly hired nanny of the Lucan children, was violently cut short. In the dim, foreboding basement of 46 Lower Belgrave Street, she was bludgeoned to death with a lead pipe. The tall, white, and coldly elegant house, owned by a trust that funded the Earl's lavish lifestyle, became the macabre stage for this gruesome act. In January 1973, Lucan abandoned his wife Veronica and rented a flat nearby. The couple engaged in a bitter custody battle, with Lucan initially triumphing by claiming his wife was mentally unstable. However, he lost the final hearing when Veronica argued that her instability was a result of Lucan's cruel manipulations. She accused him of gaslighting, physical abuse, and sexual assault. The judge, and later the Metropolitan Police, believed every harrowing detail. By all accounts, Lucan was obsessed with overturning the court's judgment. The prevailing myth was that he could not tolerate the idea of his heirs being raised by a woman he deemed unfit. However, many others painted a different picture, that of a devoted father, heartbroken at the prospect of losing his children. Veronica's sister, torn in her loyalties, did not believe the court's accusations against Lucan. She and her husband later gained custody of the 3 children. Everybody was distraught that they had been taken back by Veronica like that, without proper supervision, she recalled. Lucan's sister, who referred to him as John, also offered insight, acknowledging his flaws yet insisting he really adored those children and saw that they were in bad hands. As part of the custody judgment, Veronica was required to have a live-in nanny, a role that had seen long procession of occupants. Sandra Rivet arrived at the house just 10 weeks before her untimely and brutal murder. The pipe that ended Sandra Rivet's life was also used in an attack on Veronica. When questioned about how she survived, Veronica famously quipped, "Good breeding." However, later recounted that she thwarted the assault by seizing her husband's testicles. Fleeing to a nearby pub, a quintessential British refuge, Veronica summoned the police for help. At the hospital, Veronica provided a statement that formed the foundation of the official theory. Lucan's aim was to eliminate her, driven by the desire to regain the custody of their children and stabilise his finances. Tragically, Rivet, who was supposed to have the night off, met her death in the dim basement due to mistaken identity. When asked about Lucan's whereabouts, Veronica tersely replied, "Your guess is as good as mine." In June of the following year, an inquest jury declared Lord Lucan guilty, the first peer to be convicted as such since 1760. Yet his location remained a mystery, much as it had been since just hours after the murder. The sole clue was a borrowed car abandoned near the southern coastal port of Newhaven, suggesting he might have fled via ferry in those less regulated times. Inside the vehicle, police uncovered bloodstains and a piece of lead pipe resembling the one used in Rivet's tragic demise. Over the past 50 years, alleged sightings of Lucan have spanned nearly every corner of the globe. Allegedly, there is a story from a former employee of one of the Earl's associates, claiming his father was tasked with transporting Lucan to a small airfield in the early hours of November the 8th. While intriguing, other sightings have also placed Lucan in tears in a Vancouver gym changing room, or casually strolling through a Botswana hotel foyer. John Aspinall, the architect of an ambiance reminiscent of an exclusive gentleman's club, capitalised handsomely on its allure. He tantalised the public with insinuations that he possessed the ultimate knowledge of lucky Lucan's ultimate fear. Yet his coy teases ultimately yielded no concrete revelations. Meanwhile, other prominent patron of the Clermont Club, billionaire businessman James Goldsmith, vehemently refuted and successfully sued over accusations suggesting his complicity in any alleged escape plan involving Lord Lucan. The rest of the group, like Lucan himself, who would be declared bankrupt in absentia, had been cleared out by Aspinall and were anything but the masters of the universe that they were presumed to be. One of them, Charles Benson, was offering newspaper tips for the Royal Ascot horses races during the week of the inquest. These people, in fact, had no power and only an echo of privilege. Lucan, an earl without money, was less like a member of the ruling class than like one of the trade union leaders who back then were holding governments and industry to ransom. Ultimately, this story revolves around the tumultuous marriage, a union akin to something out of Strindberg, marked by bitter conflict where the children become pawns. Each side fought fiercely for dominance, seeking the other's downfall, with Sandra Rivet tragically caught in the crossfire. What's challenging to articulate, amidst the entrenched narrative and the vivid imagery, is that the wife, described by her own sister as a consummate actress, was actually more formidable force in this tumultuous saga. Since Veronica's death, it has emerged two individuals hold the belief that she herself may have been responsible for the murder. One perspective suggests it could have been due to her mental state, which her sister asserts had been a concern since childhood. Another theory posits the possible act of vengeance against Lucan. Interestingly, forensic evidence presented a puzzle. Blood matching Sandra's blood type, Group B, was found on Veronica's shoes and clothes, whilst Veronica's blood type, Group A, was discovered on the mail sack that contained Sandra's body. Curiously, these discrepancies were not thoroughly explored during the inquest proceedings. However, a medical expert did suggest that Veronica's head injuries, a bit unlikely, could have been self-inflicted, a detail that raises intriguing questions about the case. Such a dramatic twist in the narrative, reminiscent of the Agatha Christie revelation, is undeniably compelling. The forensic evidence in this case was comprised by the handling of the investigation and therefore difficult to fully trust, which leaves us with people, human nature, Lucan, a man of grand illusions, a facade of aristocratic confidence concealing inner turmoil and inadequacy, likely arranged for a hitman to carry out the murder. This theory could explain the unsettling detail of a man seamlessly failing to recognize his own wife and offers a psychologically plausible scenario. Had he become irrational, as Lucan's sister expressed, adding with evident distress, I could envision that John might have hired a hitman, yes. Unless one day soon someone walks into the bar in, say, Garaborn, and meets an elderly man of distinguished demeanour who can provide answers, theories remain all we have. Yet, as novelist John Fowles remarked, nothing endures like a mystery. The one thing people never forget is the unresolved. The Lucan case will endure for another 50 years, at the very least. As the years passed, the enigma of Lord Lucan continued to captivate and confound. Sightings and theories circulated, weaving themselves into the fabric of British law. The unanswered questions surrounding Sandra Rivet's tragic death and Lucan's disappearance persisted, haunting those touched by the case. In 2024, renowned interest sparked by a documentary and fresh investigations reignited the public's fascination. Speculation abounded once more, fueling debates over guilt, motive, and the elusive truth. Yet amid the conjecture, one thing remained certain: the enduring allure of a mystery that defied resolution. As for Lord Lucan himself, whether alive or deceased, his legacy as a figure shrouded in mystery and intrigue will endure, echoing through the annals of history for generations to come. And perhaps one day, the veil of uncertainty will finally be lifted, bringing closure to the tale that has captivated minds and hearts for decades. But until then, the story of Lord Lucan and the tragic events of that fateful night of November 1974 will continue to linger. Thank you for listening.